Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you all. Very
Good.
well.
Shall we do some updates?
I think we should. Right.
We were just saying before we started, it's been a bit of a quieter month, which unusual. August had loads of updates. If you've watched us before, we do these sessions every month to bring you the changes that are happening across, what are we covering? LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, Threads, where we categorize that. All the changes are what we bring you because I think we both self-describe ourselves as nerds and talk about data and what's going on. And I've checked the news this morning. I got up at 7 o'clock just to see if anything happened overnight, because that always happens, doesn't it? You know, they're in California, do things while we're sleeping. But I think this deck is as up to date as we can get for a Thursday morning.
Love it. Awesome. Yeah. Well, perfect intro, Luan. And over the next kind of 45 minutes or so, you'll have a good feel of all of the trends and all of the things that are happening in the world of social this month. I say this every time we do this because we do this every month, and we have been for how many years is it now, Luan? Every month, like 2 years?
It's over 2 years, but shall I just say this? Andy and I have never met in real life, so that is something that we need to sort out before Christmas.
We definitely do. We definitely do. But yeah, so there's that's consistency for you. But it's always like worthwhile calling out. And I say the same thing every single month. I'm like a broken record, kind of boring. But like, there's a lot of things happening. Don't feel for a moment you need to do everything or even anything on here. This is an opportunity for you to get, feel like you're on top of what's happening in the world of social at a macro level. And actually, even though there's lots of changes, lots of like little updates, new tests here and there are some fundamental things and themes that are running throughout all of social media right now. And we'll highlight them. We'll kind of recap this at the end. But oftentimes things are actually seem more complex until you get into them and you realize that actually all of the social platforms are following a very specific path. So once we understand those paths, we can potentially update and improve our strategies or optimize our strategies to make sure we're maximizing all of these platforms. And that's what this session is all about. Quick plug, I'll get this out of the way quickly. If we've not yet met, I'm Andy. About 7 years ago, I co-founded a company called Content Cal, social media management platform, which 2 years ago got bought by Adobe, which is where I now work. Hence, you'll see Adobe logos everywhere. And we've got the opportunity to bring all of our content planning and scheduling stuff, put it in a tool called Adobe Express, and then made it free. So yeah, go ahead and check out because there's loads of updates coming to that in the next month or so. So anyway, that's enough of a plug. But the great thing about working with a big company is that you get to make your technology free because it doesn't mean you're going to go bust, which is very nice. Anyway, with that aside, that brief commercial break done, let's go ahead and look at some data. And we're going to spend a few minutes on this one because I think this is so important for us to understand. So this is the trajectory of total daily minutes spent per platform. I love this as a statistic because this is more meaningful, I find, than total overall user numbers, which are useful to see, right? And we often talk about numbers of users on each platform, how Facebook is the biggest with 3 million monthly active users, and all that's good. But really, the thing that we should be focusing more attention on is the amount of time people are spending on each of these platforms. The more time people spend on the platform, the more opportunity there is for our content to be surfaced. That means more natural, organic growth for our content. That's why I always pay very close attention to this particular statistic. And I hadn't seen like the growth forecast mapped out like this. Of course, the forecast, this is not, a guaranteed prediction of the future, but it's very interesting when you start mapping the trends here. So unsurprisingly, we've seen a very steep rise from TikTok, right? So no surprise there. We already had known it's overtaken Instagram. They're nearly on parity in terms of monthly active users, but they've overtaken in terms of the amount of time spent on the platform. TikTok has also overtaken YouTube for the amount of time spent on platform, which is a really important one. And then you'll see it's on its way to overtake Facebook, which is really, really meaningful, which then means that, TikTok will continue to be the platform where we can continue to drive incredible engagement, incredible organic growth from. So I think this is just really important to track that. It doesn't mean like if you're big on Facebook right now and you're spending time on Facebook, we don't need to give up, but it's very interesting to track these trends. Luan, that was my kind of take from this slide, but do you have any views?
Like you, I love this slide because, again, I think the data that we usually refer to, datareporter.com, around number of users and things like that, has some great stats in it. And we do know how people are engaging and how much time they spend on social media overall. But to have this broken down and to see the change in patterns, and I think you could quite easily assume that this is related to video content as well, that video content is about engagement, and you get those first 3 seconds right and people will keep watching, and ultimately you use the word meaningful, and this is about measurements that matter. And yeah, followers do matter, numbers do matter, but actually we want people to be consuming our content, to be educated, inspired, and to learn and engage with it. So this number, if we were to take away all the other data, I think, and only choose one, time spent is what's important for me.
Yeah, definitely agree. Because this is, just as a quick clarification point as well, like this is total amount of minutes spent on a platform. So when you consider that Facebook has nearly triple the amount of users Facebook has triple the amount of users as TikTok, but TikTok's about to pass them in terms of time spent, which means like the average user, obviously I'm not smart enough to do the maths in the moment, but the average user is spending so much more time on the platform, which is really, really meaningful. So I'm sure Leah will come up with a whole load of like inspirations and strategies that you can employ for TikTok. So it's actually very timely with showing this growth. But yeah, certainly make note of that. Another bit of data which is really interesting as well, and as much as the media would like this not to be the case, because they like to tell a story of a mass exodus from the platform formerly known as Twitter, and it all being about threads now, the reality is it's just not the case now. In fact, there hasn't really been much of a drop in X at all, even though the media keep on reporting all these new platforms like Blue Sky are starting to, and Mastodon starting to gain users. They're really not at scale. And I think it's important. Yes, those other platforms are growing, and percentile terms, they're growing really quickly. But when you look at the macro level, look at the big numbers, they're not. X is still absolutely valuable and is still a critical component of the social media ecosystem right now. And Threads is a really good example where it was very easy for Threads to go ahead and convert tons of users because they made it super easy to join. But naturally, behaviors, consistent behaviors is very hard to change. And if your community is on X and this is where you get all your value from, it just goes to show that, just because there's a new platform doesn't mean everyone's going to be willing to switch. Because it's the people and the content that makes the platform good, not the platform itself. So yeah, that's my take on that. I don't know if you've got any other thoughts.
It's just always fascinating, isn't it? And I think I'm a watcher and a thinker of this kind of stuff, like you are, Andy. And it's like, what does this mean, and what is happening, and what are the behaviours that are actually occurring? And yeah, we all know that there was a massive spike on day one of Threads. We all wanted to see what was going on. It didn't have the features that we wanted, which was also interesting to see what people were saying. Oh, we want it on the desktop, and we want hashtags, and we want search, and we want following, we want what all the other platforms are doing. There wasn't anything that no one else was doing that people were wanting. And now, dare I say it, I'm sure other people, Ella, I keep forgetting to go on Threads. Me too. It's not like I'm staring at my phone going, oh, I've looked at everything else. Is there anything else I haven't looked at today? I better just check, are people still alive on Threads? And when you do go on there, there's not a huge amount happening. The fascinating thing is Threads is replacing X, and on day one it didn't, and the stats are saying it didn't, and people are still there. And for me, X, formerly Twitter, is, if I want to know what's going on in the news, what's going on in the world, what people think about it, it is still the place to go. And I was at a face-to-face event on Tuesday, back in the room, and people were tweeting posting all day long, taking photos of the screen. You know, I think in a certain way for me, because we had 2 years of not face-to-face events, Twitter, X wasn't so prevalent in my world because of that. But when you go back to it, you know, news, real-time conversation, interaction, it has a place and people aren't switching. But it is one to watch because of the news that we're going to be sharing shortly. Monetization of it, is that going to be the final straw of going, I'm not playing here? Ultimately, what this means is we've had to all have a bit of a think about what we're doing, what platforms we're using, what's important, where our audiences are. And that's not a bad thing to give us all a little bit of a shake up from what we're doing. And Jade has asked a question in here, people's opinion. If you have 3 social media accounts and only one is getting more action from followers, is it best to shut down the other 2 or keep them going? Gut reaction for me is, well, my first answer is always going to be, it depends, tell me more. But yes, I have spent more time in my consultancy work closing down accounts because they are not active, they are not getting interactions. I would probably not use the word engagement. I would think about, are they helping me to achieve my objectives? If action is your objective, then close it down. But think about, you know, what is it you're trying to achieve, and are you achieving it? And maybe switch things around. But yeah, I'm one for closing things down, pinning a post saying this is what we're doing if it's not helping me achieve what I want to achieve.
I think that's fair. It goes to show that there is no right answer in social media, because my gut reaction is actually the opposite. But once again, there's no right answers here. There's only opinion. And this is why I question anyone that calls themselves a social media expert, because it's just like, we're all students.
Yeah.
But your point around goals and attainment of that and alignment with your strategy, 100%. I'm absolutely aligned with that. Typically, I do like to be on more platforms or post to as many platforms as possible, purely for a distribution advantage. Do I spend time on those platforms? No. But like, I will major on one platform and then repost multiple. But provided that, you know, the audience there, the existing community that I have or followers, are the relevant people. If not, I'd just start again, to be honest. And considering the change of algorithms right now, Instagram Reels, TikTok, where it's more orientated towards recommending content rather than just you being served content from followers, a follower base doesn't matter as much. And there's lots of opportunity to gain traction, even if you don't have a lot of followers. Hence the reason, like, you know, I always go back to that point about a distribution advantage and using or thinking multi-channel. That's my opinion. Yeah, but once again, it's an opinion. So.
I agree with that too. I think ultimately it also comes down to resource, doesn't it? You know, how thinly can you stretch yourself, and where do you need to focus efforts on? And like you, I major on one platform and then drip feed out to others because I know what my goals are and what's working for me.
Definitely agree.
Cool.
And final point just on this chart. This, just in case it wasn't clear at the beginning, this clearly shows the delta between the daily active users of Twitter versus Threads right now. So when you're talking about a distribution advantage, then, you know, clearly X has a significant 10x advantage over Threads right now. And this is interesting. Sorry for the wordy slides. Literally, I couldn't think of any way else to present this, because this is a quote from our friend Adam Mazzeri, straight from his Instagram lives. Obviously, Luan, you usually call this out to make sure everyone on Instagram follows Adam, because I'm basically just repeating his words here. But he was very open and honest about Threads. So this builds on the previous slide, where Threads users are now using the app for only 6 minutes per day, from a high of 21 minutes per day after launch. And, you know, for context, back in May, Elon Musk reported that X users spending 31 minutes per day. Again, we go back to the importance of minutes per day spent on the platform. Ella, your example. Hello, Ella, by the way. You know, that is a perfect example of like, oh yeah, I'm forgetting to check Threads, or forget it's there. That's the reason. Like, people just aren't checking it. And if people aren't checking it and spending time on the platform because they're not deriving the value, then there is a like such a smaller chance of our content being surfaced, because the only chance our content gets the opportunity to be seen is when people spend more time on an app. So yeah, that's where right now I've personally stopped posting to Threads, because literally I just saw 0 point in it right now. So yeah, to I think it was Jay's point before, that's one of those channels that I've just like, oh, I'm going to forget it for now. No point. But that's only a personal view. What's your view, Luan?
I'll keep checking in. I think things switch all the time, so I am using Twitter significantly less than I ever did. Threads, I'll keep checking in, see what's happening. But I quite like the fact that it's a level platform, and everyone's finding their own role for it at the time. A lot of brands are having chats on there, so you know, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, Instagram was probably like the one I used the least, and now that's the one I use the most. So I think it's one to watch, but it just hasn't had the impact I think everyone thought it would have.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so curious to know if anyone in the chat is completely has a completely different experience and seeing really good success there. Would love to learn that too. Yeah. I haven't seen many positive signals, but I would love to. Anyway, over to you, Luan. That's enough of my waffling. So
it's just nice to have a chat, isn't it? So now we will go through platform by platform and talk about some of the changes, starting with LinkedIn. What have we got? Revenues are rising and membership leaps. So LinkedIn, owned by Microsoft, it's all the time of the year where they're doing their quarterly reports and updates, and they continue to report that they are making money primarily through paid for accounts and advertising as well, their jobs feature, and people continue to join LinkedIn. So I should add, you know, even though we've got this stat as membership continues to grow, there has been a change because they have removed themselves from China because of data governance issues, so that LinkedIn do not have a presence in China. They do not have as much activity in Ukraine and Russia at the moment because of the situation out there. So the fact that you're taking out some huge parts of the world from having access to this platform in the way that we use it, and membership continues to grow, I also think is really important, and that, you know, we will both say it's our primary platform, and IO's in there and others as well. So for a B2B context, it continues to be there, and they make tweaks to the opportunities. Algorithm updates. We don't often talk about algorithms. We talk about features because algorithms are often unknown entities, and we can only really share them when the platforms share with us what they want us to know about it. There's always so many myths and hacks, and, you know, we share in these updates what we know to be true, what has come from the platforms, and what we've seen for ourselves. So you'll never hear us going, oh, myths and tests and try this. But this algorithm update came from LinkedIn about a month ago, saying that they will show us content from the people and pages we engage with the most. I love that algorithm doing that for us. It means that actually I don't need to do my own housekeeping on things that I'm not interested in as much anymore. And it's using the information that I give the platform to show me more of what I want to know. That's just super helpful. Putting more focus on hashtag engagement to highlight relevant topics to users. There has been going around LinkedIn, you may have seen it, oh, hashtags are going away, hashtags are going away. And now posts going, actually, that was wrong. LinkedIn have confirmed hashtags aren't going away. Hashtags are all about getting your content found. And we do talk in these sessions, I don't think it's so much today, about the importance of search, getting found, use hashtags in your content. I can't emphasize that enough. Talk a lot about hashtags. Reducing notifications for certain actions. I think some of this is moving things around. Again, LinkedIn telling us what its users are finding valuable, what they're perhaps not using so much. I think some of this is birthdays being kind of grouped into a different area rather than taking up so much time in your notifications tab. Remember, on LinkedIn and any other social media platform, you can be in control of the information you receive. So go into the privacy and settings and decide what you want to receive notifications about and what you don't want to receive notifications about as well. I speak to some people that go, I switch everything off so that it's not, you know, numbers showing up on my phone apps, versus, you know, I decide what I want to know about in real time versus what I want to go and search for. And the reach of posts through LinkedIn, we're now seeing more reach over time as opposed to that kind of initial traction. Again, there's been myths and comments around the first 90 minutes are really important. For me, I always see that engagement on LinkedIn posts lasts around 2 weeks of activity. I was sharing with Andy before, I did a LinkedIn Live last week. I had stats within the half hour of the session, stats on the day, and then within a week, many more 100 views of a piece of content. So over time, I think is actually one of the things I love about LinkedIn too.
I think one of the things I take from this, two things I'll add. So one, definitely back that hashtag thing. I was experimenting not having hashtags this week and seeing a meaningful drop. Whether that's correlation or causation, I don't know. I'll never know, but certainly seems in line with that algorithm update. So it could definitely validate that hashtag engagement thing. Hashtags are very important, but don't use more than 3, just as a quick call out. This posts reaching more people over time, and I adore this about LinkedIn. But I'm curious on your take on this, Luan. So for me, I mean that seeing this has meant that I've reduced my posting volume per week. So only posting 3 per week tops now, just so that posts aren't competing with one. Whether that's factually correct or not. Yeah, I don't know if you have a view on that at all.
I'm trying to say I'm posting more at the moment because I'm promoting a book out in the next few weeks. So I'm on but it's a kind of
Gotcha.
September for me is always busier. There's more events. It's kind of that back to school feeling, more going on, had a bit of a summer lull. So I don't think I'm doing less. And what is also interesting is this reach over time, yet the fact that, Andy, you did a post a couple of hours ago, before this event, and yet it's driven people to this event in kind of almost real time as well. So, I think LinkedIn is quite different, and it depends on people's own habits. I know you and I are kind of always on there really early, so we will see each other's content, kind of before the main working day starts. Other people are drip feeding throughout the day. I'm going to see their stuff. I think it's about knowing what content is relevant for you to post on LinkedIn and focusing on what your audience want to know and being visible. If it works for you to post less versus posting more because you've got other objectives and goals in mind, I think it's just about being conscious of what you're doing and measured and towards goals.
Fair point.
Jamie has asked about this in the chat, and I knew it was coming up. Has anyone noticed, a drop in followers and accounts? And yes, there is a big cleanup. I saw one account yesterday who'd said we'd lost 8,000 followers on our company page. They obviously had a lot of bots following their company page. I haven't noticed anywhere near that level of drop. But LinkedIn, again, they share this stuff. You will get emails from them saying, we are cleaning up bots and fake accounts, and that is why you may notice a drop in followers. That is no bad thing. Fake accounts don't engage with you. Fake accounts will affect your engagement rate. You can't fixate on follower numbers. It's about quality.
I think this perfectly highlights sometimes the trivial and oversimplified nature of just like counting follower growth and having that as a primary metric, because we really have no idea as to whether they're valid or not, the perfect audience. So engagement rates have always been my kind of go-to as the most important one, because there's no point having 8,000 extra followers if your engagement rate is poor. So I'd rather have fewer but much deeper engagement personally.
Yeah.
You'll make your posts go further.
Yeah. Newsletters on LinkedIn. This was a feature that was introduced to personal accounts, then to business company pages, and recently now allowing you to have more than one newsletter. I think this is more relevant to companies if you have different departments and teams and perhaps not just one newsletter in your organization. Still getting lots of notifications all the time about newsletters and subscribing. Don't know if it's becoming a little bit wallpaper for me. I do use the LinkedIn newsletter feature for clients. If they are already doing email newsletters, then it does not hurt me to take that content, cut and paste it, use it as a LinkedIn newsletter feature to get out to the followers of the company page and then out to individual networks as well. I'd love to know in the chat, anyone really using LinkedIn newsletters, how they're fitting those in. For me, there's always the danger of I don't own the data of the subscribers, so I would prefer to keep my newsletter to email and add value through LinkedIn other ways. But the fact that we do now have additional features on newsletter content on LinkedIn is a good step forward.
Definitely. I like the auto follow piece as well. So people didn't follow you before if they subscribed to your newsletter, but they automatically do now.
Yeah.
Which can be quite useful.
Brand partnerships on LinkedIn. So yes, this is what Leah is talking about on TikTok. Shortly, we've had this feature on other platforms for a while of being able to make it very visible if you are being paid. If you are in a collaboration with a brand, that's what your content is about. So LinkedIn have added this feature, but actually when we see a screenshot, it is so tiny. I'm not sure that people will really be aware in the way that perhaps they need to be aware that something is a brand partnership. I think perhaps this is just kind of a soft introduction, letting us know the feature's there, and it may appear more in the future. We don't see so many brand partnerships on a B2B platform as we do on TikTok and Instagram, but I think it's an important feature to add for transparency and clarity, that if there is payment for content, then people know about it.
And just another call out here, like for me, the most interesting thing is the ability to search, because I'm naturally nosy. I want to search this. So I already looked up our key competitors and looked at the individuals that are promoting our key competitors. And now it's my job to make those our friends too. So it's a great way of like you extending your community and you being able to like build your ambassadors and influencers that you want to work with. So yeah, this is a really good opportunity. Even if you don't use the brand partnership feature, using the search feature is super powerful.
Yeah. And there it is. As I said, it's really quite small, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not ideal. And I realized I should have inverted these two slides on this deck. Never mind. Either way, good explanation, Luan.
Cool.
Over to Insta.
It's Instagram. What's happening on Instagram? Following. So we kind of use these terms, following versus the for you versus connection, all these words. We now have a following feed for Reels. It's showing up, and it just shows us that Instagram is still very heavily focused, even though they were not going to emulate TikTok quite as much as they got criticized for. It is still all about Reels, and now we have a following feed on there as well. Trends tools. Isn't Reels all about trends? As it is with TikTok, they are just making it easier for us to find what the trends are, and if we can find what the trends are, then we can get involved with them. Broadcast channels. This was a feature, we have mentioned it before. This is the one-to-many conversations, and I think we all spotted that it got rolled out to the UK probably just over a week ago, because we all got notifications. Then there were social media posts about, no, I don't want to join your broadcast channel. We got cluttered with them. I do think broadcast channels do have a place for one-to-many conversations. Town halls, Zuckerberg, that's how he uses it. I've seen some really nice chats in channels with people who are really using the platform to build their community. So I'm not following broadcast channels, Kieran. It's one of those new features, isn't it? And again, people testing out features versus finding their place, adding a welcome video. We like video. We need to introduce people to our communities. And I would predict, Andy, over the next 12 months, we will be using the word communities more and more in these update sessions.
Definitely.
And there's a Q&A feature in there as well. So I think this is their attempt, even though it's one-to-many, to make it interactive as well. Anyone trying broadcast channels, do let us know. Instagram lives. This one surprised me, because I kind of, when we talk about features and things, Facebook lives and Instagram lives kind of go to the back of my head now. I don't think I see them as much, and I certainly haven't done one for quite a long time. So to kind of then see, Instagram lives are now appearing in the feed to improve discovery. Are they going to make a comeback? Is it more, again, is it piggybacking on TikTok lives becoming more popular? So Instagram trying to push them as well. Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about lives on Meta platforms. But you, Andy, have you done many?
Not all the time. Probably do them like once a quarter, for example. But I think they do tend to work quite well. They still work well on Facebook, actually. But yeah, I think this just goes to show that this format is still very important to Meta. Obviously, appearing here on Instagram really improves discovery. So if you're thinking about doing a live in future, yeah, just probably might be worth considering Instagram, because naturally you'd expect that you'll have more opportunities for others to discover that, because it's going to go in the feed too, rather than people having to find you or like see the fact that you're at the top, because usually it'd be displayed in the top avatars here that you're live, but being in the feed does improve discovery. So yeah, quite like it.
I might go live from the UK Awards, social media awards tonight. If I remember, I will try to do an Instagram live this evening. Select the audience with which you wish to share content. This is a new Instagram feature, and this reminds me, if anyone can remember, of the old Google Plus days where you could create your groups and decide where you wanted to share your content with. This is, perhaps a halfway house between having a private account that you let people in and then having a public account for everyone, and just having that ability to say, this is who I want to share this content with, which I think is reflecting the trend that I'm hearing more and more about, of we are doing less in the public feed for everyone and more group behind the scenes conversations. So a bit of a shift. I haven't used this yet, haven't really seen a need to segment my audience that way, but I think it's nice to have that feature for Instagram users.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's one interesting use case that comes to mind. It's something that often comes up in like the questions that we get, Luan, which is if someone's trying to target two distinct audiences on a social level, and they might want to surface different content to each of those. So, if you're at university and you're targeting both students and parents, there might well be a need for you to target those different cohorts or segments and separate that in how you distribute the content. So yeah, could be an opportunity there. So either way, more optionality, is good.
And in stories, new comment reply stickers, again, trying to make content interactive to get people to spend more time on the platforms, to have conversations, to make social media social. And so I like this one.
Yeah, I love it. All about increasing participation on your content, right? Showing you're listening to the community. This is the stuff that TikTok pioneered, and there's no surprise that TikTok beats all of the other platforms in terms of engagement, because they prioritize the audience. Whether it's through duets, whether it's through the ability to do stitches or have these like replies, comment replies, all of that put the audience at the center of the content. And often, sorry for the slight soapbox moment here, but like often as brands, we over index on what are we putting in our feeds, and under index around what are we actually doing for our audience? How do we both encourage participation in our content, and how do we get our audiences to share our stories? I think if we think more audience first, typically, rather than thinking about what's in our feed, we'll tend to see more success on social. And this is why I like features like this in particular.
Do you want to do Facebook?
Yeah, I can do Facebook. Yeah, no worries. Cool. This is an interesting one. This is, well, you've just breathed a sigh of relief. So you
game changer.
Managing brands. Why don't you talk about this one, Luan?
Okay. I think, I know from working with clients that one of the biggest challenges of working on Facebook has been using your own personal profile. And organizations have found this a challenge to want people to use their own personal profile, for people to be able to split their personal profile between having their friends and family versus their business role, engaging with groups, commenting on groups. And I know many people have tried to set up fake accounts, and sometimes that's gone okay against terms and conditions. Sometimes it's been closed down. It has always been a big dilemma, I think, when people are trying to use Facebook for business purposes. So now they have finally allowed multiple personal profiles. And I think it's up to 4. So I don't quite know how many personas some people want to have, and that you can switch between them as well. So I think for individual heavy users of Facebook, and also for organizations who want to understand more about how their teams can get involved with Facebook and protect themselves and manage, all those kind of concerns around using personal profiles, I think this is a game changer once we understand how it works and start using it.
Absolutely love that. Definitely. Yeah, so this is a theme we're going to talk about more over the coming couple of minutes, is more kind of pay-to-play opportunities on social. So Meta Verified for Business allows businesses that are taking Facebook and Instagram seriously, which is probably most of us would put ourselves in that camp, and having a paid subscription to it for improved security, reduced risk of impersonation, better support. And I think they're charging in the realm of like $25 a month or something like that. So for me, that feels like an absolute no-brainer for any business that's taking those platforms seriously. Yes, it increases monthly costs, but anyone that's had the misfortune of dealing with Facebook support will know that they would have easily handed over that $25 to actually get their stuff sorted. And this is a big difference to, X did this a few months back, where they have like verified businesses too, but they're charging $1,000 a month for that, and unsurprisingly barely anyone subscribed for obvious reasons. So this does seem more relevant, more pertinent, and more suitable for businesses. And I think we are seeing a general trajectory more into businesses paying to use the platform, and I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing. If it's social media is a crucial business tool, paying $25 a month is, seems like a bargain to me, to be honest. But I don't know if you've got any additional thoughts on top of that, Luan.
I think at the moment, the value that they're offering for their verification is quite minimal. How many times do people go, how do you get in contact with Meta? I think the success of this is going to be people getting the support that they need and issues resolved and going, oh my God, the best $25 I've ever spent. So if Meta can deliver on the customer support that people are going to start paying for, then it will level it up.
Definitely. No word on whether any of this improves reach. And I think that's a big difference. And whether that will come, that'll then definitely shift mindsets, because obviously X's subscription platforms are very much indexed towards those businesses that pay get seen more.
Yeah.
Which, seems fair on the face of it. But yeah, it's just a very interesting thread to watch. Share as a reel for Facebook stories, again, pushing on reels, ability for you to repurpose content across stories and reels. And, this is a general theme. I talk about these themes right at the start of this session. A general theme is that reels are being pushed on so heavily by Meta, sharing reels across your stories, across Instagram reels, Facebook stories, Facebook reels, basically cross-pollinating content across platforms. Talks to the point about thinking multi-channel content distribution, that kind of thing, because Meta want you to share it across more platforms, and I think it's an absolute no-brainer to do, to be honest. Thanks.
I love that you did this, and we're not ready to let him go, are we? And we can't get used to it. And as much as if anyone's presenting on this and starts using the word X, it just feels so weird. And they continue to make changes. One of them as to how your content looks when you're sharing links and the preview. Is this just an aesthetic thing? I think it is, but we have to understand there is a lot going behind the scenes as to how X is going to display and work with our content, and the different levels as well. If you start paying for it, you've got longer posts versus you're not paying for it and shorter posts. So I think we're going to start seeing things look very different on X over the next few months.
Yeah, it's a good call out. I just want to chime in here, because this might all be pretty moot, because when X made their algorithm completely open source, so you could see all of the code, one of the pieces of that is any links that are shared get downranked so heavily, there's literally no point in posting them. It's not going to get seen. So I think that's just something to bear in mind, to think about how can we still need to drive people to our things, but X will just not surface it at all. So yeah, definitely worthwhile considering.
Subscription model, he's changing it again. New lower price tiers for X Premium are coming to boost take up. He wants everyone to be paying for this platform, doesn't he? That's where it's going. Will that change the stats that we saw earlier? Will people still see the value? Will they pay to be on there? That's their biggest test, I think. Is anyone paying for it yet? Put in the chat.
Interested to know.
This is the guide. Again, come from them, the algorithms, what's working, what's not. Replies over reposts. One reply is worth 13.5 reposts and 27 likes. They're still getting the terminology all confused and their URLs and language, aren't they? So how can we not do it? I think this goes back to the importance of engagement, comments, adding context to what you're doing. There's no quick wins with just clicking buttons and hoping things are going to get results for you on social media. You need to add some words and some context and support your audience. Images over text. Images get boosted over text only posts. It's about scroll stopping, isn't it? And attention gathering.
Yeah.
Videos as well are being favoured again across the board. Video content engages, gets messages across. That's what people want to consume. It keeps them sticking around. But then text still matters, and they want longer form content and ridiculous amount of characters available, particularly if you're paying for it, and threads. Is that what we want on this platform? I'm not sure.
Potentially, yeah. It's not what users want, but it's what X wants to get more people spending more time. That's what this is all about. It's like more people spending more time and more interaction. That's it. Once again, like when you could make all of this so simple, and the same would apply to every single platform. Encourage participation on your content, because more comments drive more reach, and think about how you can get people to spend as much time with your content as possible, because that's what all of the platforms are fighting for. The amount of time people can spend on a platform is what all of them want to optimize for, because then they can serve you more ads and make more money, basically. So that's all it comes down to.
It does, and it isn't the direction that they want to be the everything app, which isn't that what Amazon tried to be, the everything store, the everything app. Is that going to work? Is it not? We'll let you know every month as we do these updates.
Too right. Yeah. An interesting TikTok. This is massive. Probably the biggest thing for me to share this month. So yeah, don't want to overstate this, but the way that product discovery is shifting, we talk about this a lot. Product discovery increasingly is shifting towards social as opposed to search, particularly for younger generations. I think everyone knows this. But the really important thing to understand here is that TikTok leads as far as discovery of new products on social, and this is where younger generations are indexing to find and discover new products. They are searching on TikTok. I mean, it's not just younger generations as well. It's across generations too, because really this is word of mouth at scale. That's all that social media has ever been. So we index towards people that we trust, that are recommending products that we might like. And that's typically the thing that drives both like discovery and preference for a brand. So social media increasingly important for brands in terms of product discovery. So it's not just about Google. But what Google are really good at is maintaining their monopoly. And what I mean by that is I only learned this week that they pay Apple $1 million per hour to be the default browser on iPhones. $1 million per hour. That is to make sure, because Apple have always threatened to build a search engine. Google can't risk that, so they pay so much money for Apple to be the default browser so that Google can maintain their market leadership position. Google have recognized, and they came out and reported this before, that TikTok are their first real threat. And TikTok and Apple are their real threat to their monopoly. So what they've done is keep your friends close, enemies closer type of thesis. They are going to be serving search results, Google search results in TikTok search. And that has significant implications for the way we think about social, significant implications for the way that businesses are discovered, significant implications for how social media is perceived at a business level, because SEO and search is typically, digital marketers have typically seen, wrongly so, as more highly paid, more senior than the social media managers, typically. Entirely wrong, but we know this. It needs a rebalancing, right? Because social media is not just, hey, we're going to post some stuff and like let's chuck it out on our feed. It's the way that businesses are discovered, and increasingly so. And the fact that TikTok or Google have recognized this is a really significant thing. So what can we do to consider this? TikTok now allows us 2,200 characters in our captions. Making sure we consider our keywords, and yes, like have the kind of like the catchy caption at the top, but making sure we add the description of whatever it is that we want to share in the caption. And this isn't just a TikTok strategy as well. This is like the first move in this direction. You know, you called this out earlier pertaining to LinkedIn, Luan. It's like search is just becoming increasingly prevalent across all of the social platforms. So, you know, it's becoming the way, as I said, like the way that businesses get discovered. We need to make sure our captions, and think more kind of SEO content creation when we're creating our captions, use our keywords, use our descriptions, those kind of things, so that we do have an opportunity for our content to be surfaced through here. Like we said again, social media is not just about who has the most followers wins, and increasingly it's not about that, because one, algorithms have changed to focus more on like recommended content, trending content, etc. And two, with more reliance and more use of search and proactive search by users in social, means that our content will be discovered in all manner of new ways. So social, SEO, they are natural partners. So buddy up with people that know SEO, because certainly that knowledge will aid us in how we create our social captions moving forward. Sorry for the long narrative, but it kind of reflects how important this one is.
Yeah, and I've just popped a link in the chat because I'm actually hosting a LinkedIn Live discussion around social media search versus search engine search in October. So I'll just put the link in that. I've got a whole series of LinkedIn Lives coming up, as well as we're going to be doing one on AI, aren't we, on social media as well. So, but yeah, diving into this topic very specifically in a couple of weeks. So I've just put that link in the chat.
Love that. Perfect timing. TikTok search again, buying ad placement. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds a bit like Google. So yeah, obviously that's the thing that's driven Google's economic engine for the last 20 years, placing ads in search. This is not available to everyone yet, but coming out. We don't often talk about ads, but I think this is a very different type of advertising, much more intent driven, because naturally advertising on social has always been, yeah, we can target people, but it's best guess, right? People are scrolling, we interrupt them with an ad. Maybe it's good, maybe it's right timing, maybe it's not. Whereas search is intentional. I am looking for X, well, whatever it is. You can be served a relevant ad based on your search. Simple stuff, but that's really important, a big shift for social media platforms to consider that approach. Auto translation, you're talking about like the availability of our content in multiple different markets, etc. So any copy that you add using the TikTok text tools will be automatically translated, and absolutely adore that feature. And the rest, I think we're making quite good time today, actually.
We're doing all right, yeah.
Threads comes to desktop. So you called this out earlier, Luan, about there's a lot of missing features with Threads, and there's more coming. Desktop access with one of those hasn't really moved the needle, but you can now access Threads on desktop if you want to. Threads.net is the URL for that. Recommended threads and Instagram feeds. Again, like we'll see Instagram pushing Threads. They're not going to be pushing it as high as or as hard as Reels, but you might start to notice like little recommended threads in your Instagram feed as you're scrolling through. So expect to see some of that. Obviously, Instagram trying to increase that kind of average 6 minutes a day that users are spending and reverse the trend that we spoke about earlier. Very familiar, this one, quote posts coming to Threads on desktop. I don't need to explain what those are because they're taken right out of the X playbook. And a couple ones from YouTube to finish off with. Live streams in vertical format. YouTube Shorts continues to grow. YouTube Live has always been a very popular platform. So this is a kind of amalgamation of both of those. So allowing people to stream more like you would on Insta Reels or on TikTok Live, for example. Live streams are still a really powerful content format, very popular, still gaining good traction. We spoke about those earlier. So yeah, consider how lives can be part of your content strategy moving forward, if appropriate. And this just allows us to kind of repurpose that content in that vertical format on YouTube. And we can also see the impact that our shorts are making through some new YouTube analytics. So sorry for the absolutely awful screenshot on this one. Yeah, disappointing resolution. Anyway, so you can see the clips that have been made from shorts. What that actually means is, just like with TikTok as well, people can like duet or stitch your video, basically take your video and riff on it. So now we can see the impact that our shorts is making. Once again, encouraging participation on content. And that is what a lot of the social platforms are indexing more on. How can we drive more interaction on content? And that definitely should be like the kind of North Star in our mind whenever we're creating a content strategy or creating a post. Like, how will people like interact with this content? How can I encourage people to share?
And also, as a user, you need to spend more time on comments and engaging with other people's posts as well. So we need two hats on here, don't we? What we're doing for our organisation and our own content, but then actually going back, I'll ask you, Andy, you said you're potentially posting less on LinkedIn. Are you reallocating that time to get involved in more discussions?
Definitely. Yeah, such a good call out. Yes, I am.
Yeah. And I think that is a really important balance, as my summary for people to think about. I spend a lot of time, I've mentioned this with some people individually, I probably spend more time having conversations and messages, and I'll even share, I mentioned a LinkedIn Live earlier, I put an hour in my diary afterwards to follow up with people that register. Did you watch it? Did you miss it? Can I connect with you? Can I not? Don't forget the value of all of that. Social media is not just about creating posts and getting them out there and ticking it off. Commenting, reading comments, having conversations is, for me, where the value add and the results come from this world.
Love that. Brilliant segue to a quick summary. So after bending your ear for the last hour, you could basically summarize it into the next 20 seconds, 5 points. TikTok's growth is incredible, time spent on platform, but of course, social media is not just about TikTok. I have spent a lot of time talking about it, but you'll notice that there's a lot of platforms growing right now. LinkedIn being one of those. Time spent on Instagram continues to grow, but ultimately time spent on platform is essential. Massive shift in social is coming. Search and SEO. Join that event that Luan's just shared. And it's time for us as social media people, if we don't already, to get an appreciation of SEO and how that will impact our social content. Monetization on social, pay to play. We're seeing verified brands or businesses on Meta will be coming soon. We've seen the same from X. We're looking and watching very carefully as to what X will do, whether we'll make it a purely paid only platform. That will be interesting. All of the other platforms will be watching that too, and that will have implications for the social media industry at large. Threads, once again, these things, this is a perfect example of the things that Luan and I say every single month, is like, don't feel like you just need to jump on everything that's new, because lots of people spent a lot of time jumping on threads, but sometimes you just need to wait for a moment, wait for the initial buzz to die out, and then understand where we are. Same thing happened with Clubhouse as well. We see a lot of like sparkle and fade, and then we can really just take the time to figure out where things fit in our strategy. X and LinkedIn's latest algorithm updates, like we've been talking about all the time, prioritize participation. Increasing the amount of engagement on your posts increases the amount of chance that your content will be surfaced. Simple.
That's all. And that's all we need to do. The comment there made me smile, and to preempt something coming up later, we do all suffer from shiny object syndrome. No, we need to do this, and it's something new and shiny. And usually I think, Andy, you and I will go, wait, sit back, watch. You don't need to do this stuff. Don't let it scare you, overwhelm you. But Jake in the B2B session later has a great story of how he used shiny object syndrome to get buy-in from his colleagues and used it to his own advantage as well. So stay tuned for that one. We've had just a couple of comments because we've got time in the chat. I thought it'd be worth picking up and seeing what we both think on this one. They are quite tactical advice. What's your thoughts on best times to post? Frequently asked question.
Timing seems to matter more on LinkedIn personally. Let me reverse and go back to this. There is a general guide and principle around this, which is mornings, lunchtimes, evenings across all the platforms, avoiding weekends. That's a general thing that we see, but again, that's often reported by a lot of the social media platforms, the big ones like Sprout Social, for example, because a lot of posting volumes going through them. But whether that's just because all of the posts have gone out at that day, at that time, and not posted on the weekend, or whether that's actually the reality. And that's the thing. Correlation and causation are always conflated, all of the C words, on social media. So there is no best time to post. And we often look for like exactly what we need to do. You've got rules of thumb. Mornings, lunchtimes, evenings, weekdays, typically when activity on social platforms are highest. The only outlier to that is TikTok, where it indexes more into the evening, right? So they're the kind of like rule of thumb. Does that mean it's the best? Not really. It means it gives you a bit of a kind of guide to start with. Timings of posts, here's my other narrative, because you'll have some more on this. Timings of posts are going to matter less moving forward, because when we're in an age of kind of recommended media content being served when the platforms deem it to be correct, and it's not just about serving content to our followers, because it used to be like our followers typically are more online at 8 a.m, so we should post then. But our content is increasingly not being served to our followers, if I talk generally across all of the platforms, and it's just being recommended to people that the platform believes it'll be right for, particularly, all of the Reels formats, TikTok, etc. Same with LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn performance is happening, as we said, content is getting engagement over the week, right? So timing doesn't actually matter that much. So there's a very long take on it that is not as important, the high level of that. There's best practices, or like some rules of thumb, not best practices, rules of thumb, as I said, but actually matters less than it's ever done before, is my take, my opinion. What about you, Luan?
I've just written down, we will always say it depends. And the other thing that I think we both always say is the answers are always in your own data. So if you are looking for answers in your own data, and as a result of trying and testing what works for you against your own goals and objectives, I also think it's hugely important to balance your resources in this. If data shows that TikTok is really active at 10 p.m. at night, I'm not going to say to anyone that you have to be working at 10 o'clock at night, because that's what TikTok users want. It is all a balance. I would like to end with just saying, don't overthink these really small details. Details do matter. They do make a difference. But sometimes I think these questions, these really tiny level tactical levels, overwhelm people, make you overthink, and just stop you just getting on and doing it and focusing on quality content and engaging with your audience. So as much as we do talk about, do use hashtags, do think about times to post, and be consistent, and just play in this world and be visible and have conversations. Sweat the small stuff, but don't lose sleep and let it control you.
Love that. Love that.
Oh, what a day. Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. I am going to just ask one more question because it's from Alison. Hello, Alison. Thank you for joining us, a previous speaker on the summits. Question for both of us. Are we using Blue Sky or Mastodon, and what do we think? Are they serious ex-competitors? I'll answer first. No, I'm not. I'm not worried yet.
No. And they have very distinct audiences, right? Yeah. So if you are targeting like technical founders, if you would spend a lot of time on hacker news, and you were talking to that type of audience, engineers, lots of them on there, so technical engineers, developers, I mean, yeah, definitely do it. Then that's your audience. they're pretty damn small as the overall social media ecosystem goes. Would I use that for mass distribution? Hell no, just no point. Because they're just not big enough.
Yeah.
It's literally a dot on the landscape. So that's my view. Understand your audience and go there if your audience is right.
Yeah, and yeah, HE academics seem to be fans. It's something different. We don't talk about Reddit. We don't talk about other, Discord and other platforms. There are lots of smaller platforms available. It is about your audiences, but ultimately your resources as well. So Kieran's saying Reddit is where it's at. Cool gang. Cool. Thank you, Andy. Another amazing session. There's not much to talk about. We've still filled the time. Thank you everyone for watching and joining us. We do this every month, so I've put the link in the chat.